The unexpected encounter. Captain Sarah Mitchell stood on the bridge of the Earth defense ship Resilience, watching Jupiter's great red spot slowly rotate through the viewport. The massive gas giant had been humanity's furthest outpost for nearly a decade, and Sarah had made this patrol route countless times. Today felt different, though. Something in the quantum field readings had been off all morning, creating tiny fluctuations that made her seasoned instincts itch with unease. "Captain, I'm picking up something unusual on the deep space sensors," called out Dr. James Vega from his station. The xenobiologist had been assigned to the Resilience specifically for this kind of moment, though nobody had truly expected first contact to happen during a routine patrol. His dark eyes reflected the glow of his instruments as he worked to isolate the anomalous readings. Sarah moved to stand behind his chair, her weathered hands gripping the back of his seat. At 45, she had spent more time in space than most people spent in their careers on Earth. The colony wars had taught her to trust her instincts, and right now they were screaming that something big was coming. "What kind of unusual, Doctor?" "Mass displacement signatures, Captain. Big ones. And they're moving fast through hyperspace toward our solar system." Vega's fingers danced across his console, refining the sensor data. "I'm reading at least." "Oh my God." His voice dropped to a whisper. "Captain, there are hundreds of them." Commander Alex Torres, the ship's tactical officer, immediately began running combat diagnostics. His military background had been forged in the brutal conflicts over Mars mining rights, and he knew the importance of being prepared. "Captain, should I alert Earth Command?" Sarah nodded grimly. "Send a Priority 1 message to Admiral Hayes. Tell him we may have company." She paused, watching the sensor readings multiply across the main screen. "And Alex, bring our defensive systems online." Quietly. The Resilience was one of Earth's newest vessels, designed specifically for deep space defense. Unlike the exploration ships that had carried humanity to the stars, the Resilience and her sister ships were built with one purpose in mind: protecting Earth from whatever might be waiting in the darkness between stars. Every system on board had been tested and retested, but they had never faced a real threat. Engineer Lisa Park's voice crackled over the intercom from the engine room. "Captain, I'm seeing massive energy signatures approaching from the outer system. Whatever's coming, they're not using technology we recognize." Within minutes, the first ships appeared on the long-range visual sensors. Sarah felt her breath catch in her throat. The vessels were enormous, each one easily 3 times the size of the Resilience. Their hulls were a dark metallic color that seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it, and they moved in perfect formation with a precision that spoke of military discipline. 237 vessels and counting, Vega reported, his voice steady despite the magnitude of what they were witnessing. "Captain, based on their approach vector and formation, this is definitely a military fleet." The communication array suddenly blazed to life with an incoming transmission. The voice that emerged was deep and resonant, speaking in perfect English through what must have been a universal translator. "Primitive vessel of the third planet, you will stand down and prepare to be boarded. I am Prime Admiral Zorth of the Galactic Hegemony, and you are now in the presence of the dominant power in this galaxy." Sarah straightened her uniform and nodded to the communications officer. "Open a channel." She took a deep breath before speaking. "This is Captain Sarah Mitchell of the Earth defense ship Resilience. You are entering the Sol system, which is under the protection of the United Earth Government. State your intentions." A harsh laugh echoed through the bridge. "Protection. Your pathetic world has been observed for decades. You have barely managed to reach your neighboring planets, yet you speak of protection. The hegemony has conquered 847 star systems. Your Earth will be the 848th. Dr. Vega was frantically analyzing the alien transmissions, his xenobiology training finally proving useful in ways he had never imagined. "Captain, their technology is definitely more advanced than ours in terms of faster-than-light travel and energy output. But there's something strange about their weapon signatures. The hegemony offers your species a choice. Admiral Zorth continued. Submit now, accept our rule, and your people will be allowed to serve as a client species. Continue to resist, and your world will be reduced to ash. You have 72 of your Earth hours to decide. Sarah's jaw tightened. She had spent her entire career preparing for this moment, even when she hadn't known it was coming. Admiral Zorth, humanity appreciates your offer, but we must respectfully decline. Earth governs itself. The alien fleet began to spread out across the outer system, taking up positions that would allow them to attack from multiple vectors. The tactical display showed their movements with terrifying clarity. This was not their first conquest. You misunderstand the situation, Captain Mitchell, Zorth replied, his tone becoming colder. This is not a negotiation. This is an announcement. Your world will submit, or it will burn. There is no third option. Commander Torres had been running silent scans of the alien vessels throughout the conversation. Captain, I'm detecting something interesting. Their weapons are powerful, but they're designed for offense only. No defensive shielding, minimal armor, and their tactics suggest they're used to enemies who surrender quickly. Sarah felt a cold smile cross her face. Dr. Vega, how confident are you in our defensive capabilities? The xenobiologist looked up from his readings. Captain, based on what I'm seeing, I think they may have made a serious miscalculation about humanity. All right, Admiral Zorth, Sarah said, opening the channel one more time. You have 72 hours to leave our system peacefully. After that, we will be forced to defend ourselves. The alien laughter that followed was genuinely amused. Captain, you command a single vessel against the might of the hegemony fleet. Even if your entire pathetic navy were here, you would be vastly outnumbered. What possible defense could you mount? You'll find out in 72 hours, Sarah replied, then cut the transmission. As the alien fleet took up positions throughout the outer system, Sarah opened a secure channel to Earth. Admiral Hayes, this is Captain Mitchell. We have a situation. Within hours, the Sol system became a hive of activity. Ships that had been patrolling the asteroid belt suddenly changed course for Earth. Mining stations began broadcasting coded messages. Even civilian vessels started moving in patterns that seemed random but weren't. Dr. Vega worked tirelessly to analyze every scrap of data they could gather about the hegemony fleet. Captain, I'm starting to understand their strategy. They're used to overwhelming primitive civilizations with superior firepower. Their entire doctrine is based on shock and awe, followed by quick surrender. And they've been very successful with this approach, Torres added grimly. 847 star systems don't lie. But look at this, Vega continued, highlighting specific readings on his screen. Their ships are built for conquest, not for fighting peers. They have massive weapons but almost no defensive systems. They're not expecting resistance. Engineer Park's voice came over the intercom again. Captain, Earth Command is authorizing the activation of Project Aegis. All defensive platforms are coming online. Sarah nodded. Project Aegis had been humanity's most closely guarded secret, a defensive network that had been under construction for years. Most people assumed it was just another space exploration project, but Sarah knew better. Humanity had learned from its own violent history that sometimes the best defense was being prepared for the worst. As the 72-hour deadline approached, the hegemony fleet began moving into attack formation. Admiral Zorth's voice once again filled the bridge of the Resilience. Captain Mitchell, your time has expired. Will you surrender your world or watch it burn? Sarah looked around her bridge at the faces of her crew. These were people who had dedicated their lives to protecting Earth and everything it represented. They were scientists, engineers, and soldiers, but more than that, they were human beings who refused to kneel. Admiral Zorth, she said calmly, humanity chooses to stand. The first hegemony attack came without warning. Massive energy beams lanced across space toward Earth's orbital defense platforms. The aliens expected to see the stations vaporized, the first step in breaking human resistance. Instead, something unprecedented happened. The energy beams struck the defense platforms and simply stopped. Not absorbed, not deflected, but held in place by fields of energy that seemed to turn the aliens' own weapons against them. The platforms began to glow with captured energy, growing brighter and brighter. Impossible. Admiral Zorth's voice carried genuine shock for the first time. Then the platforms fired back. But instead of conventional weapons, they released the stored energy from the alien attacks, amplified and redirected. The hegemony's own devastating weapons struck their forward ships with devastating effect. Dr. Vega was practically bouncing in his seat with excitement. Captain, it worked. The defensive matrix is actually using their attack energy as ammunition. 3 hegemony vessels were crippled in the first exchange, their hulls breached by their own weapons. The alien fleet suddenly found themselves facing an enemy that turned their greatest strength into their greatest weakness. "This is impossible," Admiral Zorth transmitted, his voice filled with confusion and growing anger. "No species has ever. Your technology shouldn't be capable of this." Sarah smiled as she opened the channel one final time. "Admiral, you made one critical error. You assumed that because we hadn't conquered anyone, we weren't dangerous. But humanity learned long ago that the best way to survive is not to attack others, but to be absolutely certain that attacking us is the last mistake our enemies ever make." The hegemony fleet was in chaos. Ships designed for overwhelming weaker opponents suddenly found themselves outmatched by defenses they couldn't understand or counter. As more platforms came online throughout the system, the alien advantage in numbers began to mean nothing. "This is only the beginning," Sarah said, watching as more Earth ships emerged from hiding spots throughout the system. "You wanted to see what humanity was capable of, Admiral. Now you're going to find out." The shield that shattered stars. The hegemony's response to their initial defeat was swift and overwhelming. Admiral Zorth, his confidence shaken but his pride intact, called in the full might of his fleet. Ships that had been holding back in the outer system now accelerated toward Earth, their dark hulls gleaming with the promise of destruction. 500 vessels now showing active weapon signatures. Commander Torres reported from his tactical station aboard the Resilience. "They're not holding anything back this time, Captain." Sarah Mitchell watched the tactical display with the calm that came from years of preparation. Every simulation, every drill, every sleepless night spent planning for this exact scenario had led to this moment. Dr. Vega, status on the planetary defense grid. "All Aegis platforms are online and synchronized," the xenobiologist replied, his excitement barely contained. "Captain, what we're seeing is unprecedented. The energy reflection matrix is operating at 340% efficiency. They're literally powering our defenses with their own attacks." Engineer Lisa Park's voice crackled over the intercom from the engine room. "Captain, I'm reading massive power fluctuations from the alien fleet. They're preparing something big." The space around Earth suddenly erupted with light as the hegemony fleet opened fire with everything they had. Hundreds of energy beams, plasma bolts, and exotic particle weapons streaked toward the blue-green world that had dared to defy galactic order. It was a display of firepower that had reduced dozens of worlds to molten slag. But Earth was ready. The Aegis defense platforms, hidden among asteroids and disguised as research stations, revealed their true nature. Fields of quantum energy sprang to life around Earth and its moon, creating a web of interconnected shields that didn't just block the incoming attacks, they captured them. Dr. Vega watched in amazement as his instruments tracked the energy patterns. "Captain, the platforms aren't just reflecting the energy back. They're analyzing it, learning from it, and adapting our response in real time." The first wave of alien fire struck the shield web and simply vanished, absorbed into the quantum matrix that surrounded Earth. For a moment, space was eerily quiet. Then the platforms began to glow with accumulated energy, growing brighter until they looked like new stars scattered throughout the system. Admiral Zorth's voice cut through the silence. filled with disbelief. What manner of trickery is this? No primitive species possesses such technology. We're not primitive, Admiral, Sarah replied calmly. We're prepared. The counterattack came not as a barrage of weapons, but as something far more elegant and terrifying. The Aegis platforms began releasing the stored energy, but not in random directions. The quantum computers that controlled the system had analyzed every ship in the hegemony fleet, calculated their exact positions, and targeted their most vulnerable points. Beams of pure energy, amplified versions of the aliens' own weapons, struck with surgical precision. Engine cores exploded, weapon systems overloaded. Command bridges were vaporized. In less than 30 seconds, 40 hegemony warships were either destroyed or crippled, their hulks drifting powerless through space. Impossible. Admiral Zorth's transmission carried raw panic now. This technology, it violates every principle of warfare we know. Commander Torres was analyzing the battle data with professional appreciation. Captain, it's beautiful. They're used to fighting enemies who match force with force. They have no idea how to counter a purely defensive strategy that turns their own power against them. But the true revelation came when Dr. Vega discovered something extraordinary in the quantum field readings. Captain, I'm detecting gravitational anomalies throughout the system. The Aegis platforms aren't just energy reflectors. They're gravity well generators. As if responding to his words, space around the hegemony fleet began to distort. Invisible hands of gravity reached out from hidden platforms, grabbing alien ships and holding them in place. The mighty fleet that had conquered hundreds of worlds suddenly found itself trapped like insects in amber. This is a nightmare, Admiral Zorth transmitted, his voice barely controlled. Your species, what are you? Sarah stood and walked to the main view screen, looking out at the battle raging around Earth. We're survivors, Admiral. Humanity spent thousands of years learning to fight each other before we learned to fight together. Every technique you're using, every strategy you're employing, we perfected them against ourselves centuries ago. The gravitational traps were just the beginning. As more hegemony ships found themselves caught, the true scope of human preparation became clear. The asteroid belt came alive with hidden weapon platforms. Jupiter's moons revealed massive rail gun installations. Even Mars, thought to be nothing more than a mining colony, sprouted defensive systems that had been disguised as terraforming equipment. Engineer Park's excited voice filled the bridge. Captain, the adaptive AI system is working perfectly. It's learning their attack patterns faster than they can change them. Every shot they fire makes our defenses smarter. The battle turned into something unprecedented in galactic history. The hegemony fleet, designed to overwhelm and destroy, found every advantage they possessed turned into a liability. Their superior numbers meant nothing when they couldn't move. Their powerful weapons only served to strengthen their enemy. Their advanced technology became worthless against defenses they couldn't understand. Admiral Zorth made one final desperate gambit. All ships target the third planet directly. If we cannot defeat their defenses, we will destroy what they defend. The remaining hegemony vessels turned their weapons toward Earth itself, preparing to unleash enough firepower to crack the planet's crust. It was a strategy born of desperation and rage, the last resort of a force that had never known defeat. But humanity had prepared for this too. The moment the alien fleet began targeting Earth, every hidden defense platform in the system activated simultaneously. The space around the blue-green world became a maze of energy fields, gravitational barriers, and quantum interference patterns. The planet itself seemed to disappear behind layers of defensive screens that bent light and distorted space. Now they'll see what we learned from our own history, Sarah said quietly. The best defense isn't just protecting yourself. It's making sure that attacking you is the worst possible decision an enemy can make. The hegemony's final assault struck Earth's defenses and simply ceased to exist. The energy was absorbed, the matter was redirected, and the intent was turned back upon itself. The quantum defense grid around Earth didn't just stop the attack. It analyzed it, learned from it, and prepared countermeasures for similar future assaults. In the sudden silence that followed, Admiral Zorth's voice came across the communication channels one last time. It was different now. Smaller, uncertain, afraid. What are you people? Dr. Vega answered before Sarah could respond. We're humans, Admiral. We're the species that turned warfare into an art form, then learned to turn that art toward defense instead of conquest. We're the people who realize that the ultimate victory isn't defeating your enemies. It's making sure they never want to fight you in the first place. The hegemony fleet began to withdraw, their ships limping away from a battle they couldn't win and couldn't understand. But Sarah wasn't finished yet. Open a general broadcast, she ordered. All frequencies, maximum range. The communication array powered up, sending Sarah's voice across the galaxy to every world, every species, every civilization within range of Earth's transmitters. This is Captain Sarah Mitchell of Earth, she began, her voice carrying the weight of her species' determination. To any who are listening, know this: humanity will defend itself, and we will defend any who seek freedom from oppression. The galaxy has lived under the rule of those who believe might makes right for too long. She paused, looking out at the retreating alien fleet. The hegemony came here expecting to find another weak world to conquer. Instead, they found a species that learned to turn defense into an art form. We don't seek to conquer anyone, but we will never bow to those who would conquer us. The message continued, carried by quantum relays and faster-than-light transmitters to every corner of known space. To the oppressed worlds of the galaxy, know that you are not alone. To those who would be oppressors, know that Earth stands ready. We are humanity, and we have learned that the greatest strength is not in the ability to destroy, but in the will to protect. In the weeks that followed, the galaxy began to change. The hegemony's defeat at Earth had shattered more than just their fleet. It had broken the myth of their invincibility. Rebellion sparked on dozens of worlds. Other species began developing their own defensive technologies. The age of easy conquest was ending. Dr. Vega compiled the battle data into reports that would be studied for generations. Captain, what we accomplished here will change everything. We've proven that a defensive strategy can not only work against a superior force, but can actually turn that superiority into weakness. Commander Torres nodded approvingly. The hegemony spent so long conquering weaker opponents that they forgot how to fight equals. They never developed tactics for dealing with someone who wouldn't attack them back. Engineer Park's analysis was perhaps the most important of all. The beauty of our system, Captain, is that it grows stronger with every attack. The more someone tries to hurt us, the better we become at protecting ourselves and others. Sarah smiled as she looked out at Earth, blue and green and alive, protected by shields that had turned the galaxy's greatest military force into a retreating, broken fleet. That's what it means to be human, she said. We learn from every fight, we adapt to every challenge, and we never, ever give up. The Resilience continued its patrol, but now it was no longer alone. Ships from Earth spread throughout the system, carrying the message of human determination to every corner of space. The galaxy had a new defender, one that sought not to conquer, but to protect. And somewhere in the darkness between stars, other species were beginning to understand that humanity's greatest weapon had never been their ability to destroy their enemies. It was their refusal to become what their enemies expected them to be. The shield that had protected Earth had indeed shattered stars, not through destruction, but through the simple, revolutionary idea that strength could be measured not by what you could destroy, but by what you could protect. Humanity had entered the galactic stage, not as conquerors, but as guardians, and the galaxy would never be the same.